Good morning. I'm so glad all of you could join us in celebrating our Commonwealth's newest federal judge, my good friend Justin Walker. In my line of work, I have the privilege of meeting a lot of really special young people. They can be fresh-faced staff in Washington or here in my state offices. They can be McConnell scholars right here at U of L. I've had the opportunity to develop what you might call an eye for talent. So I'll confess that I was impressed with Justin from the first moment I met him. But there was one problem. I couldn't lure him into public service right away. There was an issue. He still had to graduate from high school. Picture this. In high school, Justin actually created his own class curriculum. He chose to research the 1994 Republican Revolution. Remember, that was the midterm in which Republicans swept both chambers of Congress for the first time in 40 years. I believe Justin called it, quote, the most exciting, just remember, 18 years old, the most exciting thing that ever happened in my life. Clearly, he had excellent political taste from quite a young age. Now, I'll leave it all to you to whether a midterm congressional election ought to be the most exciting thing a high school senior had ever seen. I'm not sure we were talking about the prom king here. I bet Justin's mom, Debbie, could tell some stories from those years. But here's where I come from. To help complete this research paper, Justin's grandfather asked if I'd sit for an interview. I wasn't sure what to expect from a high schooler on my schedule. Justin just blew me away. Insightful thinking, well-researched questions. So I asked him to send me a copy of his finished paper. He did. It read more like a master's thesis. And this guy was in high school. So I figured Justin's somebody I better watch. Let me put it this way. If any of you are both Star Wars fans and political junkies, you may know that some of my political opponents occasionally compare me to Darth Vader. Well, this was sort of like a different Star Wars moment, the scene where a shadowy leader tells a boy genius, "We'll be watching your career with great interest." So to nobody's real surprise, Justin wound up interning in my office. Then he became the first in his family to graduate from college. Then came Harvard Law, a prime communications job at the Pentagon, a clerkship on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals with a rising star by the name of Brett Kavanaugh, and then a Supreme Court clerkship with Justice Anthony Kennedy. One of Justin's former bosses is with us today. Justice Kennedy couldn't make it, but sends his warm regards nevertheless. So let's recognize and thank our distinguished guest, Judge Brett Kavanaugh of the Supreme Court of the United States. So Justin had the opportunity to learn from giants, and he didn't waste a moment. He honed his legal abilities. He learned to hear both sides of an argument and rule with no regard to personal bias or predilection. He learned how to practice collegiality and cooperation. And Justin learned the radical notion that the job of a judge is to apply the laws as actually written. Perhaps we should blame Justice Kavanaugh for passing on this subversive concept that a judge's job is to actually follow the law. Well, it's safe to say that recent years have seen a lot of enthusiasm surrounding judicial confirmations, to put it mildly. Brilliant public servants have been tossed into the media circus and subjected to partisan attacks. Just last week, my colleague, the Senate Democratic leader, shone an unfortunate spotlight once again on the threat that partisanship poses to our independent judiciary. That's why judges like Justin are absolutely essential. Everyone, including the Liberal American Constitution Society and more than a dozen of his fellow professors, admire and respect him. Extraordinary intelligence coupled with a compassionate heart. This is someone who said helping students pursue their dreams is the best part of teaching law. Someone who chose to come back to Kentucky and put his talents to work in his hometown. Someone whom I've felt deserved a recommendation to President Trump for this job. I knew Kentucky and our country would benefit from Justin's service. I admit I may have offered some slight encouragement to help the process along the way. The Senate Majority Leader may only get one vote, but I sure don't mind getting to set the schedule. So let me close with this. We're deeply grateful Justin has dedicated his life to public service. And so we're just as grateful to Ann and Isabella, supporting him through what I feel certain will be a very long and distinguished career. Join me in congratulating Judge Justin Walker.
Now we'll have some remarks from Justice Kavanaugh.